Hello, and greetings from my home in Manitoba. A lot has happened in this last year and a half. I successfully underwent a stem cell transplant for multiple myeloma, and I'm happy to tell you that I am in remission. I'm now on what's called a maintenance therapy, which is a low dose daily chemo. Its purpose to prolong remission as long as possible. So I have been asked by friends and family and colleagues throughout the year, Denise, what have you learned from this experience? Is there anything you want to share with the world with regard to your experience? And to tell you the truth, I feel like I'm still living quite close up to the experience without the luxury of time and attention, excuse me, time and distance from it to have a real refined perspective. They say it's better to speak from the scar than from the open wound, and I feel like I'm somewhere in between. And at the same time, I feel compelled to share with you some of the lessons that I've learned along the way. So, as I sat down to take stock of those lessons, I found that they came out in a nice, even dozen, and that the 12 lessons fell into three different parts. The first part was just facing cancer and being a patient. The second part is more introspective, more of my internal journey. What were the qualities that this experience has inspired in me? And the third part is perspectives, being back in the world, but differently. So I invite you to sit back, relax as I take you along this journey of lessons along the way. My hope is that there will be some takeaways in these lessons, not just for people with cancer or people who are supporting people with cancer, but people facing any kind of life challenges. So we'll start with part one, losing center, and the journey begins. Lesson number one was a lesson in readiness. A bubble is a girl's best friend until it's not. I remember walking into my general doctor's office and saying, I can't believe it, we got the myeloma prize. And she looked at me like I was crazy, but it has everything to do with perspective. What we knew is that I had some kind of a cancer that showed up in the bone, and the alternative to multiple myeloma might have meant a much more serious prognosis of maybe a cancer metastasizing to the bone from another organ. So we put all of our marbles in that basket. Let it be multiple myeloma. When it was, we felt incredible joy and incredible gratitude, and it lasted for a long time. I remember calling friends and family, okay, I have cancer, but if you have to have cancer, this is like a great one to get. I look back at that now, and I would tell you, I would chalk that up to three things. Early shock, the feeling of having missed a bullet, and my proclivity for looking on the bright side of things. What's a little bit more difficult to explain is how, even though I became a patient, like a full-time patient, I was very, very slow to identify as a person with cancer. I did not go on the internet. I was not in touch with other people in that community. And what I know now is that I had built this kind of like mental, emotional bubble around myself, protecting me from knowing too much too soon. And I even remember in my first chemo treatment, there was a photo taken of me with my thumb up like, woohoo, let's get this party started. What was disturbing was for my family, because a lot of them had been on the internet. They did know what I was facing, and they were ready for me to be on board. But I just want to say, I think there's something very beautiful about our human instincts and impulses. We have an internal knowing of how much information we can take at any one time. I can tell you that, yeah, I got on board because, as Flannery O'Connor says, The truth doesn't change according to our ability to stomach it. Little by little, I came into full knowing of what I am facing. My takeaway here is that we need to really respect people's readiness, and we cannot force reality on people that they're not ready to take in. And people don't need to feel that they're being judged by other people's timing. It's like you can imagine if you've lost someone that you've loved and someone's like, you know what, you've grieved long enough. We would never have the audacity to say such a thing. People have their own timing. And you know what? My bubble was a great thing while it lasted. And then it no longer served its purpose. Lesson number 2 was a lesson in identity. Can I be a person and a patient at the same time? I have to tell you that being immersed in that mini universe of cancer care, it didn't take very long before I began to lose a sense of my individuality. And I really missed being seen and heard as Denise Bissonnette rather than chemo chair number 9 or the number on my medical card. And I longed for connection. And I remember asking questions to the nurses in the chemotherapy room. Oh, how did you get into this job? Yeah, do you like it? Do you have kids? And I was asking these questions because my curiosity about them was real, but my hope was that I would incite some curiosity on their part about my world. And you know what? It never really happened. Well, they say that expectation is the mother of disappointment. And at some point I realized I needed to put that expectation down. A good friend of mine advised me. She said, Denise, you have friends, you have family that you can go to with the emotional part of this journey. Don't look for it from your medical team. That's not their job. Let them do their job, which is to take care of your body. And I followed her advice, and truly, I saved myself a lot of grief. But I just want to say, I think it's a travesty of Western medicine that we cannot separate the person from their larger diagnosis. And I began to think about work in all of our fields. How in every field, well, Abraham Maslow once said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you begin to see everyone as a nail. And whether we're working with people with disabilities or people who are unemployed or on public assistance or people coming out of prison, we begin to see people through the lens of our particular outcome or goals. And really, you guys, every person represents this like rich, complex, multi-layered world of experiences and hopes and dreams and fears and doubts. And what we all need is just to be seen and heard, and in those beautiful, rare moments to actually be understood. And I am imploring all of you who I am talking to now to be that thread of connection for other people. You know, it doesn't really take a lot. I didn't need those nurses to be my best friend. I just wanted a question like, so I understand you have a daughter. Oh, so you're not from Winnipeg. Where did you come from? What did you do in your life before you had cancer? What are you looking forward to when you're back out in the world? It doesn't take a lot. Let's be that thread and restore people's humanity. Lesson number 3 was a lesson in devastation, the hair thing. So I had many ups and downs in the last year and a half, but I have to tell you that one of the lowest of the low points was when I lost my hair. It really kind of took me by surprise. I don't know why I didn't expect that to be, but I did what many people do. I went in and had my head shaved because I didn't want to have to go through the process of like losing my long hair little by little. Well, what they call it at this particular salon is the takedown. And I looked at it kind of like a rite of passage. So I invited my sister-in-laws and my husband to come along. And to tell you the truth, the experience itself was pretty surreal. Came back to the house. We had, pizza, had a good time. And then I woke up the next morning just completely devastated. I felt I had promised myself the week before, when you look in the mirror, do not use the word ugly. And I did not hold to that promise. And then I promised myself, when you look in the mirror, look at yourself like you're looking at a beloved friend. Look for the inner beauty. And in fact, say, hello, beautiful. And I didn't keep that promise either. And I can tell you that it wasn't just the loss of hair, and it may kind of surprise you, but hair became kind of symbolic of my selfhood. Like I knew I would never be the old Denise Bissonnette again. I didn't feel pretty anymore. I didn't like how my clothes looked on me. By the way, I did buy a wig, a very expensive wig, that I never wore once. I had hats, I had scarves, but it was really weird. I just did not want anything on my head. I just rocked the bald for like 3 months. I don't know that I really rocked it, but I went bald for 3 months. And I remember going on YouTube because I was thinking I'd love to hear from women in my age group who've lost their hair to cancer about being bald. And I'll tell you what I found. Lots of YouTubes of beautiful young women, like under 30, with high cheekbones. I come to saying this to my sister, and she goes, well, Denise, maybe you need to be the one to show up on YouTube to talk a little bit what it's like being bald. So here I am. And I will tell you this, a lot of people through the last year and a half kept saying, oh, you're so brave, you're so courageous. And I really didn't relate to that at all, except for when I needed to go in the grocery store. And I remember sitting in the car going, come on, you can do it. Go in there, get your arugula. But it's hard being stared at or ignored or having that double take. And oh my God, children to say, Mom, why is that lady bald? Mom, where's that lady's hair? And for all of you with parents with little children who say these things, you guys, these children, they are the tellers of truth in our culture until we shame them out of it. They're just saying what everybody else is thinking. And I think we just need to meet them there in that truth. So I can tell you I've come a long way because during the time when it was really hard, I could not look at a picture of myself with my long hair without feeling terrible grief. And I'm finding little by little, I can look at those pictures and I'm just fine. Lesson 4 was a lesson in boundaries. As in, too much information can be totally overwhelming. You have to know that it seems that everybody has an idea, a diet, a product, a program that's going to prevent or cure your cancer. And everybody has to share their miracle product with you. Oh, stay away from sugar. Cancer grows in sugar. Stay away from dairy. Cancer loves mucus. Don't eat meat. Too many hormones and carcinogens. Oh, don't forget kombucha. It's great for your stomach. Oh, but the green smoothies are an absolute must. Oh, don't forget Reiki and foot reflexology. Oh, you need the essential oils, and don't forget the crystals, and pray to Saint Michael the Archangel. And you know what, you guys, I'm not even speaking to the, effectiveness of any one of those methods. What I'm saying is that when you hear day after day from people that you love what their suggestions are, and you want every person to feel really affirmed, it's exhausting. Especially if what you're being advised doesn't go along with the regimen of your medical team. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that I don't put all my marbles in the medical world, and I know my oncologist thinks of me as this woo-woo California girl because I keep peppering him with questions about these other alternatives. But I will say this, once you've picked a lane and you're on a regimen of healing, you take your belief and your confidence with you, and as you can imagine, that's such an important part of it, But when you keep hearing from other people, it doesn't strengthen your confidence. It weakens it. It made me doubt, oh gosh, maybe I should be trying that, or maybe I should be on that diet, or maybe I should be going this road. So, what I want to say to all of you is we always have advice for other people who are in difficult circumstances, and we certainly want to share our wisdom. But I think we need to strike the balance between, is this information going to be helping this person, or is it going to be hindering somehow to the path they're already on? Too much information can be overwhelming, like too many cooks spoiling the soup.